So a week ago, the Big 12 had a great initial college football playoff ranking. Utah at 13 had us all jazzed about where this was headed. Texas Tech and BYU both in the top 10. And the Big 12 had the chair of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. Mack Rhoades from Baylor was out there answering the questions. And it's like, man, this is great. We got the chair. Things are rolling. Rankings are looking good. Now the Big 12 has neither. Mack Rhoades no longer the athletic director, at least temporarily at Baylor, and he is no longer the chair of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. He took a leave of absence today from his job for personal reasons, according to what has been put out by Baylor, and it is amid a university investigation. Not Title IX related, but it is an investigation. So there's a lot going on here. This is not the first investigation in the last couple of weeks with Mack Rhoades. I didn't talk about the first one on the show, but there was a report of him during the Arizona State game approaching football player Michael Trigg and like verbally yelling at him about the undershirt that he was wearing, that it was a different color than others on the team. And then he got into it with an assistant coach on the sideline. So there was an investigation going on for that. Outkick was actually the first outlet to report that, I believe. So now everybody's wondering, all right, well, what's going on with this one? First of all, what's happening? Second of all, the question I immediately go to is, all right, beside the humanity of it, like obviously, like I hope if he needs help, like whatever this is, I hope he gets it. From the football standpoint, my mind drifts toward, well, you just, as a league, you forfeited your opportunity to have the chair of the selection committee. How much impact that has, I mean, I don't fully know, but it doesn't seem great that you just gave that up. And the SEC is now taking it over. Okay, but as far as what is actually going on here, there's not a whole lot that's being reported outside of, like, so Outkick, who again I said had that first story about the Arizona State incident, said, according to multiple sources, there is currently an investigation into an incident that involves someone not currently a full-time employee of the school and Mack Rhoades. So we've got that. That's basically where we're at. So once again, I will reiterate, like, I hope if he needs some kind of help, I don't know exactly what's going on there. I just, for everybody involved, I understand that there's a humanity side of this. It's not really my job to speculate or talk about that, but there is significant ramification, or there are significant ramifications from this as it relates to the Big 12, right? Like I just talked earlier this week about, it seems like the path to getting multiple teams in the playoff has become more difficult. It's more convoluted, with BYU down at 12, with BYU 3 spots behind Notre Dame, with Texas and Oklahoma right there, with Vandy surviving Auburn. There are a lot of sharks in the water that have Big Ten and SEC patches on them. And that makes it tricky. So I really, I know people on the committee would tell me and tell all of us, like, look, these guys, if it's schools that they're connected to, they've got to like recuse themselves. And, it's it's typically a 12-person committee. They were already down to 11 because somebody else had taken a leave. But there's double-digit guys here, lots of talky chat. Like, just because you have the committee chair does not mean that you're going to get like an extra little kiss, right? Like everybody else in the room, if you were deliberately trying to do that, you probably, like, people would just throw a fit, right? But I don't know, if you're a leader in there and you've got real sway and you've got a real voice, I would just think it doesn't hurt. And the Big 12 needs every little bit of help it can get in this Power 2 environment. So it was a nice feather in the cap to have the chair of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. And it sucks, man. It's a bummer when now you lose that, and you lose that to an SEC AD. Hunter Yurachek is now the chair of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. So you forfeit the seat. Arkansas's AD gets it. Mark Harlan from Utah, by the way, is now on the committee. He's not going to be the chair, but he is on the committee. So you do have a replacement from the Big 12. You just do not have the chair anymore. And I don't know, man. I just the optics of it, right? Like, just say it out loud. Like, the optics of it when you have Utah and BYU fighting potentially for an at-large spot. Obviously, they have to take care of their own business to get there. But those two fighting for an at-large spot with what I think by the end of the year will likely be 9-3 Texas, 9-3 Oklahoma, 10-2 Vandy, and then you've got 10-2 Utah, maybe 11-2 BYU there. Man, you want to have as much influence in the room as you possibly can, especially after an offseason of lobbying from Greg Sankey, right? Who was trying to put pressure on all of these committee members as much as possible to get more SEC teams in, right? This is a bummer. I was also reading today, like John Wilner threw some cold water. I know I've mentioned him a couple times now. John Wilner threw some cold water on the thought of Utah getting an at-large, for sure Utah getting an at-large bid, also BYU, but really Utah. And I do think it's weird, like, you know, BYU is the team that fell 5 spots. Utah didn't move at all. But based on, you know, it's like Oregon almost lost, didn't. Vandy almost lost, didn't. Now BYU has fallen back. Utah stuck in the same spot with no juice left on their schedule with KU, K-State, and Baylor, the only remaining opponents. It does start to look like, man, there's just so many sharks circling the water that are SEC and Big Ten schools. It's going to be tough. And that was really the point that Wilner was trying to make. He even brought up, he threw Michigan into the mix and said, like, look, Michigan's got Ohio State left. So if they went out and beat Ohio State, which they've done seemingly 100 years in a row now, what is it, 5? That would put Michigan right in the mix. If USC beats Oregon and Iowa, I mean, they could move up and steal a spot. And then you would have Oregon sitting there with 2 losses too, probably still getting in. So he was making that point. I had been kind of earlier in the week making the point on the other side of Texas, Oklahoma, and Notre Dame and the difficulty in trying to pass them. Anyway, that's where we're at. Just the vibes don't seem great. I'll put it that way. The vibes don't seem great on BYU or Utah getting into the college football playoff as an at-large. So would suggest finding a way into the Big 12 championship game and beating Texas Tech. Now, I guess the other thing here that's not being discussed a lot in these scenarios is, what if it's a Texas Tech that does lose in the Big 12 championship game to a BYU or a Utah, like whoever it is that gets in? Does that change the calculus there? Specifically, well, BYU or Utah would probably be about the same, I would imagine, in terms of, like, you know, no one's going to, you know, the metrics, the efficiency stuff, love Utah so much. No one's going to hammer Texas Tech for a loss to Utah. I'm sure they would still be in the mix. But if there are all these other schools with those logos on their helmets, how much preferential treatment is Texas Tech going to get, especially when you don't have the chair anymore? Anyway, vibes are not good, my friends, on that front. Vibes are definitely not good. Definitely not. All right, I see the comment section is heating up a little bit. Dan says, BYU admin and fans love the Big 12. Glad to be here. There you go. Reinforcing that idea that they are probably not going to be headed for independence anytime soon. So there is that. Let's see.